everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I am Jake.
And this is Jake Reed's number
War on Christmas.
Ooh.
Because apparently the War on Christmas started like a couple weeks ago.
That's good. The War on Christmas keeps getting pushed earlier and earlier every year. Come on, people. Can we please just focus on the War on Thanksgiving?
I was looking forward to that, to maybe anti-turkey and pro, I don't know, egg rolls.
I'm very anti-pilgrim.
Very anti-pilgrim.
Buckles on hats, that is one thing I will not stand for. So anyway, today we're here for Jake to read your comments, probably make fun of you a little bit, maybe be poignant. I don't know, I haven't read these questions yet, but I am assuming he will use the word cunt no fewer than 4 times, so let's see.
Cunt. Filled that bar. Anyways, so before we even begin, I just wanted to thank Dayton Hedgepeth, who is a fan of the show, who gifted me like a shit ton of things on Steam, which is the unpopular culture Steam. On Steam, if you weren't aware, we have it for the other channel where we play some game stuff. But he gave us like Broforce and some other cheap stuff because there was a sale a while back. But he deserves a thanks, so thank you, Dayton Hedgepeth.
So our first comment today comes to us from Twitter, because Jake is huge into the twits. That's a stupid
I twat.
Yeah.
I twat a few times.
Yeah, and this is Lamar Jamal, and he says, at Bible Reloaded, what are your feelings on people who claim that Islam is a religion of violence?
I decided to answer this question on Jake Reed's War on Christmas, because when I answered this question, a shitstorm occurred. Because I made the grave mistake of being thoughtful on social media. So, basically the answer, in my opinion, to is Islam a religion of violence is complicated. Everyone's initial response is, well, of course it is. I mean, religions, like, if you read it, it's like, yeah, it's a violent religion. I'd say the religion in a vacuum without any people, very violent. If you were just on the merits of what the religion tells you to do, goddamn right it's violent. However, the vast majority of people following that religion aren't violent. The vast majority of Christians aren't violent. The vast majority of most people in the world in any one subset aren't violent, unless that subset is terrorists or apparently NFL players. But basically the idea is it's because this is basically are Muslims terrorists question, and you know it's so nuanced, it's hard to even answer that question in a full way. But the bigger answer you have to ask isn't like, are Muslims evil or whatever, you know, which I don't agree with, but, you know, whatever, is why, the real question is, why does ISIS exist? And that's a heavy question, too. And it's not just one answer, and that's why this issue is so complicated. And everybody right now is like, don't let the Syrians in, or let them in, or blah, blah, blah. But when you look at the statistics, the stuff that's happening in Syria right now, is worse than what's happening from ISIS, and just because they're also brown doesn't mean that they're bad people.
I don't like questions like this generally, again, because it kind of, you said it already, but it removes the nuance from the situation, and I don't think now don't get me wrong, that's not me saying, like, no, everyone should love everyone, I'm not a fucking hippie. No, but I think there's definitely problems with Islam as a religion, but I also don't think that gives you merit to attack anyone who is Islamic. I don't know. I think it's a complicated issue, and that's why I generally every time I answer in a thoughtful manner about Islam, people are like, "Well, you wouldn't treat Christians that way." Yes, I do. I still hang out with Christian people. Most of my family, as most of your families, are Christian, and we still fraternize with them because we are, you know, family. Like, the holidays are coming up. I will probably end up listening to a prayer at some point, and it'll be fine. It's no big deal. And now here comes the person in the comments, yeah, but they don't fucking chop your head off. Well, most Muslims don't chop heads either. Bad ones do. There are definitely some bad ones. And this isn't an endorsement of the religion of Islam. I think it's equally bullshit. Like, it's just as false as every other religion that you could probably put in front of me. And it's obviously more harmful than most religions, if not all religions right now.
at this point in time. But that doesn't mean the people are bad, just inherently by being Muslim.
No,
you know what I mean? There's
a
big difference.
What I think it is right now, definitely, it's the biggest justification for terrorists of the religious type, for sure. But I don't think the underlying issue is Islam. I think Islam is the excuse they use, but I think if Islam didn't exist, the same people under the same circumstances would probably be using something else as justification. And I know, I guarantee there's going to be someone on this video who goes, you guys are such liberal fucking
regressives,
and you're just trying to protect Muslims. No, I'm fucking not. If a Muslim comes up to me and wants to talk about their religion, I absolutely will. The same way I talk to Christians, and I'll talk to them and explain why I think it's bullshit. That doesn't mean you blanket an entire group and say they're all inherently violent. They're not. There are a lot of violent people who use it as justification, just like people in the Middle Ages were using Christianity to justify their bullshit. It is what it is. People use religion to justify bullshit, which is why I'm anti-religion. But I'm not strictly anti-Muslim or anti-Christian, because I think when you start attacking a person and not the beliefs, that's when it starts to be kind of a dick move. You know what I mean?
Islam is a very complex thing.
See,
right now.
That's why the simplistic answers don't work, because it is a complex issue, and people are going to be like, you guys are backpedaling. No, we're not. It's just more complex than that. If you want to say, even if you want to say Islam is a religion of violence, which I think to say any religion is a religion of blank, whatever it is, that's incredibly simplistic. Even if you want to say that,
you could say it's a religion that tends towards violence.
You could even say that.
That's more reasonable, because again, in a vacuum, just given the text and the holy, definitely, I would agree. I would agree with that on all the Abrahamic religions.
Sure.
Because that's kind of how they are.
But the issue is that when you put the most important ingredient into that mix, which is the people.
Exactly.
People are so diverse, it makes
very
any
complex.
blanket statement you want to make about the religion, because it is talking about people, really, it makes it moot, because there's billions of people on the planet who are religious. Over 1 billion, I believe, now are Muslim, so to try and make a blanket statement about all of them is ridiculous. Is there something in Islam that makes certain small groups of people use it to justify their violence? Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's clear. And I don't think anyone could honestly disagree with the fact that some of the tenets of Islam lead to that extremism. I mean, it's clear that it leads to that, but it's not in all cases. So I think it's hard to stay even-handed, especially when there's such emotional things involved with Islam, and because it's directly tied to terrorism, and pretty much anyone in the Western world has been affected by it at some point, because, you know, it feels like a breach. Again, it is. Because
part of it too is that on the other side of things, some people do, though, when you criticize Islam, because there are, obviously, because it is a religion and I disagree with it, there are tons of criticisms you can levy, and then some people take those criticisms and then say it's racist, and it's not necessarily. But the thing is, there are some people who use criticisms of Islam to justify their racism, but that doesn't make any criticism of the religion racist in and of itself. This is why it's a very complex issue, because each side has different shades on each side. Are there racists who use criticism of Islam to be racist? Yes. Are there critics who are just criticizing? Absolutely. I think those are most of the people who criticize Islam are probably
like, for instance, I don't think Sam Harris is racist when he talks about his criticism of Islam. I think he might be a little heavy-handed, but at the same time, he's not wrong about a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? He's further than I would like to take it, but he at least isn't using it seems pretty objective from him.
I don't know. This is what I'm talking about. This is why this is a hard question to talk about.
Yeah,
it's so
this is why we went on for like 10 minutes about it.
Well, there you go. Did that answer your question?
I don't even know if it answers the question. The biggest thing I would like is thoughtful responses to that question in the comments, because I think that's one of the more interesting conversations you can have right now. Also, is that Jeb? Is that Jeb in that? Or is that guy that going, yeah?
The guy going, yeah!
Oh, yeah, okay.
This is from Ask Hugo 23, sniping my questions again. I see how it is.
You know it.
Blue Torch. Hey, Hugo and Jake, I am a young atheist, but I still go to church to get more knowledge. But what questions do you think is better to ask to my pastor? And then you replied, Pastor, how do you spell knowledge? Because you're snarky.
Yeah, I'm a douchebag. But it was a good question, so I decided to save it. but I wanted Blue Torch to think I just hated him. I assume you go with your family since you say you're young and you want to ask knowledge questions to your pastor. That's very interesting. I played church league basketball with a few friends of mine junior and senior year of high school. I actually got kicked out senior year. Guess why? But I asked hard questions and I had a really awful. He wasn't my pastor, but pastor answering the questions. So I've had some bad experiences with that. Not as far as like abuse or anything, but just like it was bullshit. It was pointless to even be there. But if you have a reasonable pastor, I've met more often than not, I meet reasonable priests than I do pastors. For some reason, Catholics are just they're better at the conversation as far as I'm concerned, like the professional ones.
I think it's probably because. And I'm not saying this is... plenty of religions have pretty strict guidelines for becoming a leader of a church, but I think Catholics becoming a priest, it's pretty strict.
You have to go to, like, seminary and shit.
So I think that's why their standards just tend to be higher on average, I'll say. And that's not to say there aren't plenty of just pastors who are educated. There certainly are, but I think across the board, the lowest standards are higher than the lowest standards of Protestants. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, and because he's calling pastor, I assume it is a Protestant, so I don't expect you to get very good answers. But if you do, if this is a reasonable person that you are comfortable talking with, I would ask any question. There's really not a bad question to ask. Like, there's no like buzzword gotcha question if that's what you're trying to get. Like, you're never going to convert your pastor to not be that. That's his job as it is, anyways. That's something he'd have to do by himself if he's going to do it, which he probably won't at this point. Not a lot of them apostate. But
well, there's the
Jerry DeWitt. I mean, it happens.
No, it does happen. There's that whole... I forget... Oh, man, I feel like a dick. Now I'm forgetting the name of the organization. But they...
Jerry DeWitt's a part of it.
Yeah,
it's, I can't remember. Hold on.
The Clergy Project?
Yeah, it's the Clergy Project, where ex-clergy members go because, and they use the skills that they have from their former trade and try to put it forth. A lot of them become public speakers and authors, stuff like that. It's tough though. Like you lose a lot of shit when you're an apostate. But that's not the question. But it is interesting. I don't know. Is there any one question? If you could only ask one question to a pastor, what would it be? A lot of people would probably say like the problem of evil, or the sacrifice dynamic doesn't make sense. The Trinity doesn't make sense if they're Catholic. Like, I don't really know. I
think those questions, they're not going to be a whole lot of help, because definitely these are things, because the as close to apologetics can get, these certain philosophical questions about religion, they're as close to atheist apologetics as you could possibly get. So Christians have definitely heard these before, especially if you're a pastor. So what I would do, instead of trying to lob these very general philosophical questions that they almost certainly have rebuttals to, whether or not they're good rebuttals doesn't matter, they probably think they're reasonable, I would say, when you listen to their sermon that day, whatever it may be, you can go ahead and ask them questions about that specifically, because I think talking about the specific things they talked about and having a conversation is more important than lobbing open-ended questions at them. So, for instance, if they talk about a story in the Bible that you disagree with maybe questionable moral ideas, you could talk to them about that. You could say, hey, in this story, you said that this was like this. However, what if you looked at it this way? Isn't it not right for God to be doing this? If he expects a certain standard from us, why does he not follow the same standard? You know what I mean? And that's not quite the question of evil. It's a different question, and it's more specific to that hypothetical situation. But I know there's plenty of places in the Bible where that would be applicable. But I think having a conversation about whatever he's talking about, for one, he's going to be more interested in talking to you about it, because if you just come at him with like, hey, what if God, why is God problem of evil, blah, 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 he's going to take that as an attack. He's going to assume you're just trying to stump him. But if you're having a conversation about what he just talked about, he's going to feel like it's more of a conversation, that you're genuinely asking questions. And even if before you're genuinely asking questions, this feels more natural to him. And
also, you're not going to stump him.
No, I don't think
he's a professional, and you are a child.
Yeah, and two, I just think he's more. It's more likely that he will be open to considering things in more specific, smaller sections. I think he'd be more willing to rethink smaller sections of the religion than he would to ever be like, oh, you're right, you stumped me, there's no God. But he might be willing to question some of the underlying beliefs that are problematic. You know what I mean?
Because he's a person.
Yeah.
And that's how you should talk to people.
Sure. This is from Atheist Bible Study number 1, which is...
Oh, what a garbage episode. Yeah. Trash. Total trash.
Coach Mark 2002 says, okay, if you guys believe in evolution so much, answer this for me. Which evolved first? The 1, digestive system. 2, the food digested. 3, the appetite. 4, the ability to find and eat the food. 5, the digestive juices. 6, the body's resistance to its own digestive juices. Just pick any one of them, whichever one you want.
I like that this illustrates exactly how people who don't really buy evolution think about it. It can't be like a tandem parallel sort of thing. It always has to be like a building block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not structured like that at all. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be several at the same time, or it can be versions of those things. Like I don't know anyone that believes in evolution that thinks one day we had stomachs and then the next day we had stomachs filled with acid and it just worked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
also,
obviously.
I don't know. You believe in evolution so much, like there's a unit I can place upon my belief in evolution. Weird.
No, this guy's pretty bad.
So the food digested is the answer though. Number 2, the food is the first thing. Light was the very first food on the planet, and we respirated with like irons and carbon and shit like that.
Actually, some people have argued, some scientists have said that they think that the first food source wasn't necessarily the sun as an energy source, but vents underwater that produced heat.
I was going to say vents and stuff too.
So that's interesting.
I guess it depends on where life originated, but one of the first was obviously light. And so the organisms that could harness that energy multiplied, and the ones that could not eventually did not, or got a different food source. And so the ones that were more able to adapt towards the abundance of that food were more successful at living. And then over time, mutations occur and blah, blah, blah. You guys get it. So, I mean, this question isn't a stumper, guy. It's number 2.
Also,
number 2 is the answer.
A single chicken sandwich appeared on a seashore the same day a fish walked out of the water.
Okay. Big question for everybody down in the comments. #chicken sandwich. Do you like yours with fruit in it or no fruit? Some people put grapes and or apples or like cranberries in their chicken salad sandwiches. Other people put like celery and like. I'm more of a let's just go chicken, mayo, some spices. I don't like the grapes and shit up in there. Dried cranberries might be all right though. It's very important to me that I know this from you.
This one comes to us from Jake Reeds. Thanks for not poaching me again. At least this one's from yourself.
Yeah. You're welcome.
De Hoya Novak says, Dear Hugo and Jake, I'm a young trans person, male to female, and I'm having some trouble with transitioning and coming out. I understand that you probably don't know a lot about either one, so I'm not going to ask you questions about it. That's good. But I'm really dreading moving forward, and I'd love to hear a story about a time when you had a problem with the fear of advancing.
That's a good question.
I like this question because no matter what, we're going to get one person who's like, how dare you compare your story to the troubles of transitioning?
So? I guess I didn't think about that because this person was asking a honest question and really just wanted to hear how we, what tribulations we've ever gone through.
Yeah, people are dicks though, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of any time I've had a fear of advancing, but I have had a fear of stagnation. Does that make sense? Like, I really, really don't fear any sort of move or change for the most part. I can't think of one. Nothing pops out, and I've had some major moves in my life, as most people have. But I do fear getting stuck, like, and just nothing changing for a very long period of time. And I don't mean, like, stability in life, like people around and, like, a house. And I don't fear that, but, like for a time, Hugo and I worked in restaurants. I worked in restaurants for much longer. And there was a period of time before I even met Hugo where I was like, I was too poor to go to school, but I wasn't skilled enough to move on from my job. And most people after high school kind of get that, where if you can't afford to go to school right away, it's kind of this fucking, oh God, what do I do situation. And I remember having like a mini existential crisis for a few months. Like, do I try to get a different job, or do I excel at this job and move forward? And eventually I chose that path and it worked out. But like, as far as advancing, I've never had that. But I don't have anything that compares to transitioning male to female. So like the social repercussions involved with that are far more than anything I think I've faced.
Yeah.
And I came out as an atheist pretty openly and quickly, and no one was like, fuck you, I hate you. I lost some friends on Facebook, but I didn't care. Like, also I don't use Facebook very often, so I didn't know until like months later. But as far advancing, no big deal for me. But I hope it works out for you. And if you need more support, there's a healthy trans community on Atheist Twitter. So
Atheist Twitter. I know what you mean.
There's a difference. There's Atheist Twitter, and then there's Twitter. Atheist Twitter, everyone knows each other for some reason.
There's also, there's someone who could probably help you more. We have a friend,
Stephanie.
Yeah, she has her own YouTube channel called Think Skeptically, who's also trans, has been living truthfully, as she puts it, for I think it's been about a year now or so, and she's...
and actually, she just moved recently, and I think she noted that this was the last time she had to throw away any of her male clothes.
Yeah, before when she moved, she had always thrown away all her female clothes because she felt ashamed of it or something, and now she's finally comfortable in a place, and she's she's in a good place now. I think we talk sometimes.
We talk pretty regularly.
Yeah, she's I think dealt with some of the same issues as you. So if you wanted to check her out on her channel and maybe ask her some questions, I bet she probably has some advice for you, because she's gone through a lot of the same things and probably is going through some of the same things. So
definitely.
Yeah. This is from our Heaven is for Real review. Drew Stewart says, I realize that these videos are just trying to put down Christianity. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. But never in any video do either Hugo or Jake use any evidence to disprove anything. All they do is ridicule the movie for having bad actors and bad plot lines. At least they admit they have them, though. Good for them. As a Christian, I don't believe that this particular story actually happened, but Hugo and Jake would make a more impressive argument if they use some fact. Okay, not facts, just singular fact.
What fact do you want me to throw at you that you need to make us more clear on the fact that movie sucked balls? Trains go on rails. There's a fact. It doesn't apply.
I think the issue is that, especially for Heaven is for Real, we have used facts, if you want to call them that, whatever, before to try and talk about more serious issues, but when we're talking about Heaven is for Real, he provided no evidence he went to heaven, so all we have to say is, no, you didn't, you little piece of shit, for an hour, right. And we did. The end.
Colton Burpo, you cunt. I don't know what you want from us specifically with this film, but for other films, like for Expelled, that we had an intelligent design argument, and we used some facts there, but I mean, like, we're not watching a fucking scientific dissertation where there's facts brought forth. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's a way we could have reviewed that movie, because it's a movie review.
We did talk about stuff in that movie. We talked about, I don't remember if we talked about DMT specifically, but I think we talked about drugs in general that can stimulate near-death experiences. And I think we talked about how... We
talked about NDE ad nauseum.
Yeah, so we did talk about concepts and stuff, but we weren't going into Heaven is for Real saying, we're going to break down this kid's story. He's got such a solid argument, we really got to work real hard to take it down. No, we were making fun of a kind of a bad movie and a kid who probably lied, whether he knew it or not, to people. Yeah. And we were just breaking down the fact that he's full of bullshit. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but what we do is supposed to be kind of funny. Not this as much, because we're giving genuine answers, but generally our movie reviews are supposed to be more for entertainment. We've never been like, this is going to be the final word on this apologetic.
I've never thought about it before. It's weird for someone to come at our channel like, you didn't give a fact in this scenario. It's like, you did also, you remember the part where we talked about, like, gurgling cunts, right? Like, did that not negate any of the facts that we brought forth earlier? Or, like, in the very last Bible episode, very, very good. We did a good job, I think, bringing forth the tale of Hezekiah. But also we talked about how Hugo bribes crackheads with crack in order to suck their dicks. So, I mean... We're not the most, we're not really a bastion fact evidence sort of stuff. We're more of an entertainment channel. So I mean, like,
and if you guys get something out of it, that's awesome. If you guys like get a tidbit,
we sprinkle
here
it in
there,
sometimes, yeah. But I mean, it's not like the focus. The focus is we want to read the stories of the Bible because we think they're interesting. Not a lot of people read it, and let's have fun while we do it because it can be real fucking boring. As far as the movie reviews go, though, they're just funny because those movies suck. They suck so bad. Greg Kinnear. Come on.
This from one of our Chick Tract videos, Sam Katz, quote, Pixelated Legion. Apparently he has an AKA. That's something that he has on the internet. He has committed internet crimes, and when the internet police bring him in, they're like, oh, who's in the room? Oh, that's Sam Katz, AKA Pixelated Legion. Oh shit, that guy from the comments? Yep. Dear comment people, does anyone have any good sources where someone could learn about evolution? I do want to learn about it, I'm just not sure where to start. My basic knowledge is this: all species have a set of traits which help them survive. Some of the members of the species develop a new trait which proves to be better suited for the circumstances they live in. Because these traits give the mutant some form of advantage, it can reproduce, and the trait will be spread through the offspring. Gradually, after many generations, the mutated trait becomes normal, and the process continues. That's a flawed... But better,
in the ballpark.
You're closer than like a lot of people I've heard who don't have a lot of formal education on the subject. So that's not bad. Yeah. You're not quite like biology 101, but you're certainly not if there are monkeys, if we came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys kind of person. So that's good. You're on the right track.
Yeah. I think a really good idea is to watch Crash Course.
Yeah, they're pretty good for very rudimentary stuff.
Yeah, their biology course, starting at 1 would be perfect, but number 20 it talks about evolution. But if you really, really want to learn about it, you can learn all the processes, all the biological processes on Crash Course. There's a link in the description, and right on your screen, look at the clickety-clack. And they're really fantastic. Hank Green does a really, really great job. If you don't know the Green Bros or Crash Course, you're missing out. When I taught history, I used their history Crash Course to supplement the test scores, and test scores went up like ridiculously because they do a really good job of communicating.
Yeah.
And it's a broad stroke thing, but they'll give you enough information where you definitely can move forward from that point and read something more complex, but still be able to like synthesize the information and actually absorb it. You're on the right track. I definitely recommend anyone who's interested in evolution, or anyone who's interested for other people. Like, say you have a friend that's maybe religious but is kind of thinking like, I don't know if I buy this, and you want to kind of give them a prepper on, well, evolution is a thing that, you know, it kind of explains a lot of the problems you're having with as far as creation is concerned. Definitely give them Crash Course. And then Aaron Ra also does a really good job, but he's much more technical. Yeah. So I think that maybe you should do Crash Course before you do Aaron Ra's videos, although he is very thorough. And there's just some other stuff. Like, honestly, Wikipedia has a really good article on evolution. If you really want to do it, it'll have, just click the blue links every time they pop up and just keep learning.
Richard Dawkins has also written some books on evolution.
The Selfish Gene.
Greatest Show on Earth. Those are obviously more complex, though. That would be after... Because what you would describe, I'd say, is kind of like what you would explain to a late elementary or middle school student what evolution is. Kind of like how when you explain something to a younger kid, it's not a complete truth, but in a very general sense, it's kind of how it is, so you explain it so they can understand it. Then when you get to high school level, you can sort of supplement and take out some of the false stuff and inject it with the more complex bits that explain it better. Dawkins is definitely like more college level though, so you definitely have steps in between before you can. Because if you read like The Greatest Show on Earth, which I have and I've read, very complex. Natural selection and evolution and all the other facets that go into the evolution process, very complex, very interesting, and it's definitely understandable. It's just there are subtleties and lots of ways that things can happen. So,
and I think that's actually a big issue of why people don't accept it, is because it's just not as simple as people are ready to digest for the most part. Yeah. Like, it's not. It's a process that takes a really long time, and it's hard to observe, and it's provable beyond a reasonable doubt, though, and like that's the important part. And it's also elegant in the way it kind of works.
Yeah.
It just works. And so it's important to know exactly why, or at least to your best abilities, to get a good idea.
Final comment of the episode comes from Atheist Bible Study number 92. T legit 225 says,
Do you think it's too legit?
I thought so at first, but then I thought, I'm not going to put that in his mouth. I'm not going to assume he's too legit. Maybe he is just legit. I don't know. He might just be legit enough. Anyway, today I was on a trip to the FFA convention. If you don't know what FFA is, and it's the one we assume it is, that's the Future Farmers of America. And of course,
which is big in the Midwest.
Yeah. And of course I knew there'd be religious groups in the career show, however, I didn't expect to be pulled into it by my group of friends. I'm an atheist, but I'm a high school student who isn't at the point where I can be open about it. To keep from showing my non-belief, I had to lie. Lying feels terrible, though. Do you have any advice as how to cope with keeping my atheism under the radar? The tent we went to was handing out Chick tracts, but they didn't give me one, sadly. Dang, Chick tracts are rad. You should have gotten some.
Chick tracts are fun. Do you have to keep your atheism or non-belief under the radar? It seems like you're pretty adamant that you do. I don't know why. It may be the place that you live.
It might be a family thing, too. It might be you can't let his family know.
As far as how to cope, YouTube, Reddit, although Reddit's a hive of scum and villainy.
There are good... try out our true atheism instead of our atheism. I believe that's only text posts, so it has to be kind of thoughtful, writing down questions and stuff. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's better than our atheism. And there's
YouTube is always good. Twitter is good if you want a more personal sort of, I don't know, thing. I found that Twitter is good for new people because they get less mad faster.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like you loosen that tight wind up you have when you just want to blow your wad on everything. Yeah. You're new atheist is like, just calm down, man.
It's a bummer. I don't know why you can't be open about it, but if it's like an issue where if your parents found out it'd be an issue, obviously don't come out about it yet because I don't want you to be in any sort of compromising situation. But if it's just you feel like uncomfortable about it, I'll tell you right now, it's much more comfortable to be open about it in a situation like this because lying and kind of, nodding your head along with what they say feels way more awkward to me. If I were in that situation, even at your age, I know I found it more comfortable to just be like, I'm not really religious. Like, I'm not saying be confrontational about it. Certainly not. You don't need to be. But, like, you can be honest and say, like, I'm not really religious. Thanks, though. Still be polite. Be a person. Most of the time. Like, I'll say, 8 times out of 10, they'll be totally understanding and be like, oh, okay. And they might still try and talk to you about it. But it's okay to have an honest conversation. I enjoy having that conversation with people, actually. Like, if honestly...
It's always fun.
Yeah, so... if it's only you being uncomfortable with it, being open can actually surprisingly feel more comfortable because you're being honest. But if you can't, then that's kind of a bummer.
I'm always honest when people ask me. Although, to be fair, I don't have anything to lose at this point.
That's fair.
Although, I don't know that I ever did, to be fair. We lived in a moderate area, so it wasn't ever, that huge of a deal. But... if people ask me, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not, not religious. And then people are generally curious because they don't meet a lot of us. And then they ask questions. Just answer honestly. You don't have to be an asshole. I know a lot of people want to be like, because it's bullshit and Jesus was a lie. Or say stupid things they think are funny, like I eat babies or hail Satan. Mm-hmm. Just be cool, man. You seem all right. You seem like an all right kid. It'll be cool. Future Farmers of America sucks, though.
So I think that's all for today. That was nice. You actually didn't call anyone a cunt today. That was weird.
You're a cunt.
Oh, well, there you go. There's 4. So, I guess that's it. If you want, you can always check us out on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
You can check Hugo out at Hugo Reloaded. You can always subscribe and ask questions. I will not answer questions to non-subscribers.
You can always...
There's no way of knowing if you're that.
You can always check out our Patreon. Our patron-only hangout for this month is actually tonight, as of the day this comes out. Not always tonight, because then we'd have to do one every night for the people who watch this on that day. 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, on the 20th. So if this isn't the 20th, you missed it.
Yeah. So, I think that's it. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been Jake Read Your Comments, number War on Christmas. So,
Josh
Bill O'Reilly,
Fierstein.
we're coming for you. Oh, Bill O'Reilly and Josh Fierstein should fucking team up.
Be like a buddy cop thing.
The combined cholesterol between them could choke a baby.